Thank you so much. Feels so good to be here today with you all. Um, my theme is anxiety. I see it's coming up a bit in the chat, and I know I have been, it's my old friend. Let's just say that. It has come up for me my whole life. And so much of my motivation in learning meditation and becoming a meditation teacher is how to navigate, how to find your way through anxiety. And these are anxious times, maybe for you personally, certainly in the collective. There is a lot of already pretty terrible things happening. And there's also this fear, this kind of feeling of um, how do we get out of this? How are we getting out of this time, this very painful time in the collective? And so it's kind of perfect in many ways that we are in this Parsha this week. And that's what I want to teach on. Um, and so I'm just going to pull out the piece of this week's Parsha that really speaks to that kind of terrified, anxiety, kind of bordering on despair feeling that's present in this week's Parsha. Um, and how are we supposed to get through it? Lessons from the ancestors. And from the Torah. So, Harry, can you share the source sheet maybe in the chat and also up on the screen? You're welcome to read along with me. It's just a short little segment, or you can just let the words kind of wash over you if you already want to begin to get into a meditation typed posture. So, yes, I titled the source sheet Trapped and Afraid. Resonated for me in this moment. And trapped and afraid is where the Israelites find themselves in this journey. They've been freed. They're leaving Egypt, but they're all of the sudden pretty trapped between the sea and the advancing Egyptians. And it's terrifying. And they're like, we're going to die. They call out to God. They call to Moses. They're like, is this what you freed us for? Like to have us die here in this moment? Like there's no way. And unlike many times in the Torah, I think, where we're kind of like, oh, come on, like, why is your faith faltering? Like, don't you remember how God freed you? In this moment, you kind of stand with the Israelites. Like they do legit look trapped. And Moses comes in with this maybe reassurance that is to me like very, very profound. He says, Al tira'u, have no fear. Don't be afraid. And Rabbi Alan Liu, Zichrono Livracha, his entire book, Be Still and Get Going, is pulled from these lines. And what he says about this line, have no fear, is that it's not written using the word for fear, pachad, that denotes the sense of when someone is chasing you, which in this case is actually like what is happening. So they could legitimately have that type of fear. But what Moses is telling them is have none of the kind of fear that tells you that you can't do something, that you can't move through something. Almost like this kind of fear that tira'u comes from the word yira. And Rabbi Liu's interpretation is that it's trying to tell the Israelites like they have within them the capacity to find their way through this. So, yes, it's terrifying. There is legitimately something chasing you and you are trapped. But then the fear that Moses is addressing is there this capacity within them to make this big crossing over, this big change that needs to come. And then Moses says, stand by, hitiatzavu. So Safari is translating as stand by. Other places have translated as be still, hold your ground, stand by, hold your ground, don't move, be still, and witness the deliverance that this source of all of life will work for you today. And this is the line that gets me. For the Egyptians, whom you see today, you will never see again. The Egyptians whom you see today, ki asher reitem et Mitzrayim. So the people of the narrows, or you could say the constriction, that's the definition of Mitzrayim, literally, the constricted, the narrow place that you see today, you will never see again. An interpretation of this phrase is to say, you will never see this, the Egyptians in the same way again. You'll never see this thing that is, terrifying you in the same way again. And to me, it's so powerful to think that all that terrifies us, all the ways and the things that are feeling anxious to us right now in this moment, have the capacity to shift so much that they'll be unrecognizable to us. It's like, can we have a kind of a faith born of stillness, born of holding our ground and being still, that allows us to have the faith that the way we see the world is about to radically shift. And even though we look around, we see no way out, or at least no clear way out of our pain and our fear and our sense of being trapped. I mean, there is a way out that we just don't know about yet. There will be a way out. The last line, the divine, the limitless one will fight for you, will battle for you, and you hold your peace. Again, you have your stillness. You find your stillness. And Moshe is not necessarily talking about literal stillness, although maybe for a moment there's going to have to be some literal stillness. But in the next following lines in the Torah, what they're going to have to do is move through this water where there is no path. There's all these midrashim and commentaries where they have to move through the water up to their mouths before the sea splits. So it's like we got to find the stillness that allows us to keep moving forward. That's our job. That's the task before us, to hold somewhere in our hearts and our minds that there's a way out of here that is unseeable to the eye in this moment. And the last thing I'll say is that it's kind of astounding to think that Moshe gives these words over, and the sea hasn't split yet. And according to what we've seen in the Torah, God hasn't told Moses that God's going to split the sea. So Moshe just gets deep within him that there's gonna be a way out of this, that the divine one, the source of all life, is gonna find a way where there does not seem to be any appearance of a way. So maybe we can feel some of that today. Maybe you need some of that today. I know I do. And so let's practice into that. Let's find that sense of still, grounding, holding of the ground within us. So I want to invite you to find a seat that feels comfortable, that feels stable for you, that helps to have that sense of feeling grounded and still in the storms of our world, in the storms of whatever is happening in your heart, in your personal life. Sometimes it really helps to feel your feet against the ground, or to sit on the ground, or to lie down on the ground on some stable surface where you can just let the body relax. Let the body come to some ease to find that stillness. You can bring some relaxation into the shoulders. You can roll them open and let the shoulder blades slide down the back. Relaxing the arms, wrists, hands, and fingers. Feeling the firmness underneath your feet, your bottom, whatever you're sitting on. If it feels good, you can give your neck a stretch. You can give your body a twist. And invite softness into the jaw. You're welcome to close your eyes or just leave them softly focused in front of you. And you can take a few deep breaths. And if you are holding a lot of anxiety or tension or tightness, it might feel nice with each exhale to audibly let it go. So you inhale big, and with each exhale, maybe you shake, maybe you let it move through the body, releasing, releasing, releasing. I want to invite you to scan through the body, just noticing any places of holding, tightness or tension, just inviting some softness, some release. You can say to your body, it's safe. It's safe to let go. In the spirit of Moses talking to the people, we can kind of draw on some of that faith. There is a way out of this that we just don't know about yet. Your only job is to be still. Your only job is to feel the ground, to hold your ground, to be held by the ground, by the earth, by God. And each time your mind spins, your mind is telling you scary things. Each time your mind shoots into the future or into the past, each one of those kind of mind trains is just an opportunity. You can bring a hand to your heart, you can bring a hand to your belly, and you can just say, I am held, I am supported, the way that I see things right now will not be forever. I will never see them this way again. Again and again, we come back from those anxious thoughts. And again, we release, we drop in, we feel the support underneath us. Just this stillness. Just this moment. releasing and returning, opening the hand of thoughts, releasing our clutches around what we think is going to happen, what has already happened, and dropping in to take care of just this moment. To hold our peace, to find our ground right here. Releasing and returning, releasing and returning. I'm going to close us with a little bit of the song that we sing as we're walking through the sea, as the Israelites are moving through the sea. It's a song, it's a piece of a song that says, God, the divine is my strength and my song. So if you're really struggling to find that grounding, to find that faith, how we get through these times, we can borrow the words of this song, of this chant, and see if it brings with it that sense of support, of connection, of feeling strengthened by this source of song and strength. Ozi vezimrat ya vayehi li lishua. Ozi vezimrat ya vayehi li Yeshua. Ozi vezimrat vayehi lishua. 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 Thank you all so, so much for practicing with me today. May we continue to see new openings, new ways forward. And we're going to now shift to our Kaddish.
Thank you so much, Yael. Amen. As Yael mentioned, we'll close, we'll seal our practice as we do each time, offering those of you who are in mourning or observing a yard side, if it's your custom to join in the mourner's Kaddish, you can join in. If you're not reciting Kaddish, we ask you please stay present to support those who are. We put the name or names of those who are honoring today in the chat. Honoring memory of my grandfather, Morris Margolius. And people can add names either now or after we recite Kaddish. Thanks to Harry for sharing the words on the screen. And if you're joining me, please rise in body or in spirit. And you can unmute at this time. Itgadal, Shabbat Shmirash, Yama Dibra Kivike, Kayefon, Yeda Obeit Israel, Agala, Bisman, Karme, Hebrew, Amen. Ishme, Rabba, Barak, Male, Barak, Shabbat, Ahar, Kami, Aseh, Shadar, Taleb, Elan, Birkata, Shabata, Ushkata, Shlama, Rabban, Shemayim, Aleinu, Israel, Amen. Oseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, Israel,
Amen.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. And if you're leaving us now, I want to wish you a sweet and restorative Shabbat. And hopefully this beautiful practice today will stay with you into tonight and tomorrow. We'll be back with a full week of practice next week. So we hope to see you on Monday if you're leaving us now. And I wish you Shabbat Shalom. And of course, as always, you're welcome to stay on. You can just use this time to continue to sit with the guidance that Yael offered, or you can join us for a conversation about the teaching, share reflections on your practice in the chat. And if you have a question, please write question all in caps in the chat. We'll keep an eye out for that to try to work your question into the conversation. Well, Yael, thank you so much as always. Who would have thought if after all these years of looking at this story, that I never noticed that Moshe was giving Bnei Israel, leading them in a Jewish mindfulness meditation practice at the shore of the sea before they cross. I never noticed that. So
Yeah.
I'm only saying that kind of tongue in cheek because you have completely changed that verse for me.
Yeah.
I always have looked at that verse in the context of what comes right after it, and neither negates, as usual with Torah, all of this can be true simultaneously. Is that it's like a setup because the next thing that God says to Moses is, "Ma titzakalai, why are you crying out to me? Tell the people, to move forward. You hold your hand out over the sea, raise your rod, and tell the people to move forward," which seems to be to contradict what most, I take that often as a contradiction of what Moses has been saying, like saying, "What do you mean? Tell them to sit still? Like get going. That's what you're supposed to do." So it's really, but now it's much, much richer because, in a sense, what I'm getting from you is that when Moses is saying that before that can happen, um, leaving, whether you leave it aside or it's a prerequisite to what has to happen before they start moving, is that they have to be still. They have to be still. And, it's worth look. I don't want to get too geeky with the Hebrew, but maybe we will a little bit. Um, because the word that's used for, that's translated as stand by, the English doesn't really capture it. I think it's really about, it's the same root that's used as for taking a stand. And it's used at the end of the Torah in Nitzavim for you are all standing here today. So it's really not just like stand by. It's really about take a stand, take a stand and be still. It's almost like it would be like a great standing meditation right there.
Yeah.
You know? And Tacharishun, not just like button it up or zip it up. It's more like access stillness right now.
Mm.
Take a stand and be still. And I love what you did with, and you won't see the Egyptians anymore. It will never be the same. Really, just kind of an allusion to the truth of impermanence, which is a healthy, helpful antidote to the anxiety.
Yes.
So I don't know. I just wanted to thank you because now I feel like, oh, I really like that verse now.
Yeah. Well, it's not, I also have to say, this is Rabbi Alan Liu's, it's mainly his argument, but I love it so much. And the Egyptian line really gets me for some reason. Like, it's just like, it's just like a reminder, because when we're stuck in the anxiety, like, it is so difficult to just kind of like extricate, to
So
find,
can you go back and just like how would
yeah,
you how do you translate that now as
yeah.
as a guidance? You will no longer
You won't ever see them this way again.
this
So,
way. It doesn't
yeah,
mean that there won't be
right.
other Egyptians, coming along,
Exactly. And we know in the Torah there certainly are other problems. This is just the beginning
right?
of, this journey. But I think every time we remember, at least for me personally, every time
Mm-hmm,
I remember something that was so catastrophically scary to me.
mm-hmm,
And it's not like, well, I made it through. That must have not been so bad. Some of the things are pretty bad that we've
mm-hmm,
had to go through.
mm-hmm.
But the fact that we've like made it through, um, to me, just then shifts our capacity. Like it's almost like a remembering of yourself, of like the capacity to move through very difficult things. Like the whole, what is it, Glennon Doyle line, like we can do hard things. It's really real, and I think that is kind of the memory of this. Like, how many times are we told, like, you were slaves in the land of Egypt and now you're free? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like it matters to find that like source of resilience and strength inside of yourself. Like, you can do this.
Yeah,
uh, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think that's really quite amazing. Shireen, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right, said this is an antidote to the fight or flight response. Um, and I was thinking, also a good segue for your anxiety challenge. I wanted to invite you to talk a little bit about, on the one hand, like a lot of people are expressing their sense of palpable relief and even tears that people experience from that, having that experience of relief. On the other side of the coin, I wondered about the payoff or the attraction of anxiety, like
Mm,
why we go there. If it's obviously so much more pleasant to let go of anxiety, why
yes,
are we in it 99.9% of the time?
yes,
It seems to be like there's some payoff, some payback to us that has to do with being in this state of vigilance, right? And
yes.
it requires letting our guard down a little bit to be able to do that. So I don't know, maybe you want to comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's such an astute point. Because like nothing is extra. Like we're not just anxious because there's it's like a problem with us. Like it's a very smart bodily, response to a complete or a feeling. I don't know if it's
Mm-hmm,
always complete, but it's definitely a really strong feeling of having very little control of the future. And so we're faced with a future that is completely out of our control, or at least feels like it's out of our control. And so the mind comes up with this mechanism called anxiety, which is trying to project the terrible things that could happen to give us at least a sense of control. Like, I think I probably shared it on here. Like my grandmother who used to say, like, if nobody else needs to be anxious because I'm going to be anxious for everyone. And it's like that idea, like
mm-hmm,
if that we have some ability to control the scary things in our life. So that's one function. But
mm-hmm,
I've been noticing a different one in this meditation while I was leading it, and feeling into it. I noticed also that when we're in anxiety, we're not feeling grief. We're not feeling just sadness and real grief.
mm-hmm,
So it's kind of like, for me, it's like a kind of a little escape hatch, like churny, 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 anxiety, 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 because
right.
actual thing underneath it is so painful and so
Mm.
sad. When I actually feel it, it actually doesn't, it feels almost good to feel it, but the body puts all these barriers because it's afraid of feeling the grief. Um,
Can
and
you
then,
just hit pause for a second there? I
yeah,
think let's like underscore that because does not it doesn't sound logical, but
yeah,
actually I think I just would say I resonate with what you just said that the grief and pain that we try to keep at bay, maybe in part through anxiety, actually when it's acknowledged and felt, it's not as bad as we feared it would be, and that itself is part of the relief, right? It's not just the soothing of the anxiety, it's also addressing not addressing, it's addressing the root as much as the symptom of
exactly, exactly. I think that's right. Even in like the political world where like, we're all activated and feeling a lot of things. And then if you just take this time to do this practice and be still, I
it.
think
Hmm.
there's a lot of like sadness is there, at least for me.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I was, I could be wrong, but when you wrote the Taurus series for IJS, what was the title of it? You remember?
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't it The
The
Silence and
silent
Everything?
center. Yes.
Okay, good. I was pretty sure. I couldn't remember it was Yael Levy or you. So yeah, the silent center of things, or I like amend that to the still center of things. Um, and that tacharish, there's like different words for stop for silence in the Bible, and this is one of them. The root is het resh shin. Um, and I'm not really, maybe I don't know, I don't know, the nuance difference between that and, for example, shtika, silence, or dumia, stillness. But there's something about, in the midst of all the agitation, being able to access that in the middle of the agitation. So in terms of like moving, we only have a minute here, so like this is putting on the spot, but it's a good takeaway. How would you advise accessing that stillness and silence in the midst of, moving back into life? Like we're about to end,
Mm,
and well, moving into Shabbat. Hopefully, this will seep into Shabbat for a lot of
yes.
people. But when we're really agitated, read something in the paper, whatever, see something online.
Yeah, it's to me, it's almost like somatic first. What can you hold on to? What can you feel your feet against the ground, or can you look at like something in nature? What can we kind of hold on to or access that gives that little sense of okayness that's underneath the storm?
Mm,
And just having a little like sip of that, a taste of that to kind of resource us to move and do the things that we need to do in the world. And we'll have a whole bunch of tools of that kind in my anxiety alchemy challenge
great.
in 2 weeks. Only $36.
Harry, you got the link? Throw it in there.
I hope that you join us. I genuinely hope you join us. It's going to be a really special thing.
All right. Yeah, Alice, always, this was great. Thank you so much. Really a
Thank
gift.
and
A
thank
lot of
you to all of
appreciation, I see. Um, okay, everyone. Wishing you all that sweet and restorative Shabbat that we all need so badly. And looking forward to seeing you back on Monday. Thanks to you, Yael, and to Harry for holding us together. And to each of you, as always, for being here and for your steadiness and dedication, which is so inspiring. Thank you so much.
you. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.